Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I am going to talk about how to build Kloe. I know the game calls her C-L-O-S-E, I guess Klose, but I'm going to refer to her as Kloe. It's just the way she was named in the previous game, and I know while Falcom has decided that her official translation should be C-L-O-S-E, I just prefer the American pronunciation of Kloe. So Kloe it is. Let's call her, and we'll begin talking about her right now. So, just an interesting note. Apparently, from the event, you get 210 shards, I think, of her, and that's enough to bring her to 5 stars. So once you finish the event, which is Secret Realm, limited time events, the Trails in Time first chapter, once you hit the point reward of 8,100 points, you'll get all the shards that you can of Kloe. And that will be enough to bring her to 5 stars. So my current hero is going to be 2 stars, and I can bring her up to 3. And yeah, so we'll talk about her talent, White Wings, right after I increase her star level. Alright, there we go. Alright, so let's go into her screen and let's begin talking about Kloe. So Kloe Rince is one of the main characters in Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky. Her real identity is... Actually, that's a bit of a spoiler, so just go play the games if you want to know more about her character and her story, right? In Langrisser though, she's one of the best PvP healers available. So, let's talk about her talent. Now, because we get her at 5 or 6 stars as soon as you complete the event, I'm just going to talk about her talent at those levels, and I'm going to ignore it at, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. Alright, so her talent has 2 effects. First, healing effects are increased by a certain percentage. At 5 stars, it's 25%, and at 6 stars, it becomes a 30% healing increase. And then her second effect is, after taking action, 4 allies within 2 blocks obtain a random immunity effect for a certain number of rounds. At 5 stars, it's still 1 round, but at 6 stars, it becomes 2 rounds. So getting her to 6 stars is quite an advantage, given you can get immunity effects, right? So these immunity effects and the healing increase make her very, very useful. Now, let's talk about her classes and the skills that she gets from these classes. She only has 2 lines, so there's no extra, 3rd line with 1 class mastery or whatever. And it's actually quite interesting. Her left line is a Saintess Valkyrie line, which is just like Chris. So in this class, from Saintess, she would get Discipline, right? From Valkyrie, she would get Faith. So these 2 skills are exactly just like Chris. But she does change for her final skill. From Valkyrie's, the final skill is Star Glow, which is a AoE blast, right? 3 range, span of 4 blocks, cooldown of 5 turns, 0.36 times AoE damage, and dispels 1 buff from those enemies that are hit. So unlike Chris, who has 2 single target strike skills, she has a single target strike and an AoE skill if she goes down the Valkyrie line. If you go into Liberal Princess and Queen of Liberal, well, she gets Mass Heal, and then she gets Blizzard, which is actually rather odd, right? But her final skill is Aurora Ring. And this skill, Aurora Ring, is what makes her so good for PvP. What it does is, it's an assist skill. Cooldown of 4 rounds. Span is 5 blocks, range is herself. So she hits 5 blocks all around her. It's an active skill which dispels up to 5 debuffs on all friendly units within 5 blocks. And those units gain the following effect. They become immune to fixed damage, and after taking action, they restore 50% of their health for 2 turns. So it's an amazing skill, right? Immunity to fixed damage means you're immune to Luna's faction buff effect. You're immune to fixed damage attackers like Joshua, as well as especially Listel, right? Listel's Blood Dance does fixed damage. So getting immunity to fixed damage is just absolutely vital. So that is why this Aurora Ring, again, just literally makes her one of the best PvP healers available. Alright, so those are her classes and those are her skills. So let's talk about skill builds for her. Well, there's basically 2 skill builds. I suppose there's 3, right? Most of the time, if you pick her, you would be going into first the Liberal Princess and then Queen of Liberal branch. And then, in that sense, you would be using the following skills. The basic heal skill that you always start off with would be the first skill to pick. Then you would choose Mass Heal for a second heal spell. And then you would choose Aurora Ring. So quite straightforward, right? If you go into the Valkyrie line without having Liberal Princess or Queen of Liberal, then you're doing a Crystal build. Discipline, Faith, and then Starglow. And then if you have the dual class mastery, then you're going to use, excuse me, the most likely combo is Mass Heal, Faith, and then Aurora Ring. Right? So one interesting thing to note about Kloe, her range is 1 in both her classes. So she's actually a melee attacker. You know, she's an int-based melee attacker. So that's something to be aware of. Unless she's using these attack skills, because Discipline has 2 blocks, right? Valkyrie, Starglow has 3 blocks range. So there you go. Alright, now let's talk about Kloe's soldiers, okay? So her soldiers that she gets access to from the training ground are Zealots and Highland Warriors. Zealots are the soldiers that you use on Chris, so you're likely to have them leveled up to level 10, unless you don't use Chris, of course. Highland Warriors are a great infantry unit, right? It's important to note that from her 2 tier 3 class lines, she gets Exorcist, Tidemaster, Heavy Infantry, and Phalanx, right? So if you had to choose between Heavy Infantry and Highland Warriors, I would definitely say Highland Warriors are the better choice over Infantry, because they also get the attack increase and they get a damage reduction decrease as well, right? Whereas Infantry only get a soldier defense increase when attacked, but when they're attacking, they only increase attack. So that's why Highland Warriors would edge out Heavy Infantry in the attack and in the defense, right? So that's her best infantry soldier. But remember, infantry is vulnerable to cavalry. So if she ever ends up being not guarded, bringing these infantry could be a problem. And that's why she has access to Phalanx soldiers, right? If she's ever unguarded, the Phalanx can protect her, kinda. But in general, what's considered her best soldiers is your choice of Zealots or Highland Warriors. Okay, but if you don't have, all 3 of these soldiers leveled up, choose the one that's level 10. If you have level 10 Heavy Infantry, just use those. If you have level 10 Zealots, then you might use those over the level 10 Infantry. Otherwise, if you have all 3 of these leveled up, you'll probably use Highland Warriors. And the reason for that is because, well, Kloe as a healer should always be guarded by a tank. So she should not be using Phalanx, right? Exorcists are not as good because they only do the extra damage against demons. And then Tidemaster only are good in water, which is silly for a healer. Alright, So those are her soldiers. Her hero boosts. Basic hero boost is 10% defense and increase magic defense by 15%. Let's go into her bond section now. So, Kloe's bonds. Right? First one is always the same. Second one is always the same. Third one actually increases attack and defense of soldiers. So, pretty unique, right? Because her natural bond doesn't increase attack, but her third bond does increase attack. Moving on. You can see, just like the other 4th and 5th bond are standard, but they unlock from her 2 class masteries of the 3rd tier classes. So once again, just like all the other Trails in the Sky heroes, as long as you put runestones into her, she will unlock all her bonds. So let's continue then. So let's talk about her hero boosts in its final stage for soldiers. So with the way it added up, right, what she ends up having is 10% hit point increase, a 25% attack increase, a 35% defense increase, and a 25% magic defense increase. So it's like, once again, it's an odd mixture, right? Yeah, it's not a 40% attack increase, but and then she seems to have more defense and magic defense increase than she does hit points. So like I said, it's just a really odd mixture. In any case, that's her soldier boost. Not the greatest, but I guess it's solid. So now let's talk about her equipment then. And before I talk about the equipment, I should talk about the enchant, right? As a healer, it's fairly obvious. If you're going to enchant her as the healer class or with the dual path line, she'll be a dedicated healer, right? With Aurora Ring. So in that sense, you should be using Crystal Enchant, of course, because Crystal gives you more healing effect. However, if you are using a Kloe with the Valkyrie skills, you should actually use clocks. And the reason for clocks is because of Starglow, having the 5-turn cooldown, right? If clocks activates, then you can keep using Starglow. If it activates on the attack skill Discipline, then you can use it 2 turns in a row. So that's why clocks is actually her best enchant if you're doing the Valkyrie style Kloe. But in all other cases, you know, Aurora Ring with the heal, with the mass heal and so on, you should definitely use her Crystal Enchant. And then let's talk about gear then. Well, in terms of gear, it once again depends on whether you're playing a dedicated healing Kloe or a Valkyrie Kloe. For a dedicated healing Kloe, let me just first bring up the Google sheet on equipment. Alright, here we go. So, as a dedicated healer, the weapon you want is probably Goddess's Left Hand, right? Because additional healing effect. You just want to maximize healing. So you want one of these 3, right? Goddess's Left Hand, Mistletoe, or Oliver's Staff. And Goddess's Left Hand is usually considered the best in slot because of the 100% chance to reduce enemy mobility by 2 blocks, right? So that can disable Lancers from guarding, which is why that is the best weapon for her. For armors, because you'll have Kloe in her Valkyrie line as her final class, you can actually use the light armors, right? This, which is equipped by assassins, bow characters, flyers, and aquatic units. So, since she has access to these armors, the one you'll probably want is Lacerates for the extra survivability, right? When hit points is at 100%, lower all damage taken by 40%. So that's definitely going to be her final armor. If you don't have a Lacerates to spare for her, well, because she fights in both melee range and at 2 range by discipline, you'll probably want to consider giving her Twilight armor that gives both defense and magic defense. So that's the other armor that I would probably think she would use. Alright, so next, let's move on to helmets. For helmet, it's pretty obvious. You just want, because she's a healer, you will want her to have the Yggdrasil Wreath, right? It's the upgraded Sage's Hat. If you don't have the Yggdrasil Wreath, then, you know, give her a Sage's Hat itself. If you don't really want to use a Sage's Hat on her, well, again, because she can equip light armors in her Valkyrie class, you can give her a Jormungandr's Eye, right, to decrease the damage enemies deal, or you can give her a Twilight Helmet, you know, like once again, defense and magic defense increase. So, quite versatile there in terms of the helmet. And then finally, for accessory, if you're using her as a dedicated healer, for sure, in my opinion, the best accessory for her is Goddess Tier. Right? After taking an action, dispel 1 debuff from 3 friendly units within 2 blocks of her. So just having that dispel is huge, right? The alternative to Goddess Tier, of course, is bringing the Holy Ring. And the reason for that is immunity to silence. Right? Given that she's a PvP healer, the immunity to silence can be quite useful. So it's your choice between Holy Ring or Goddess Tier. Alright, so if she was going to be in her Valkyrie class though, accessory, helmet, and armor choices basically remain the same. The only change would be the weapon, where instead of using Goddess's left hand, because it'll be attacking so often, you're going to choose the Gift of Eternal Life. Because when attacking, after battle, heal friendly units with the lowest hit point value by 3 times Caster's Int. Alright, so that's her equipment. And with this, that is everything about how to build Kloe Rince. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful. And I mean, once again, for soldiers, right, you just want the maximum attack from her because she should always be guarded by a tank. So Fuss, that means Highland Warriors or Zealots or heavy infantry. Okay, so thanks for watching everyone. I hope you found this video useful about how to build Kloe Rince. And on that note, Nitro out.